Okay, welcome everyone. Video number 2, one dish, two ways. I'm Sheila.
This is Joe.
And so today our theme is lasagna. So Joe is actually going to put together individual lasagnas for himself for this week. And we also tend to put half the items in the freezer. And it's because we kind of get tired of eating the same thing. We've found that out about each other. So he's probably going to make, I'm guessing, 4 of these. And then he'll probably have 2 for eating this week, and he'll put 2 in the freezer. We like to have a stock in the freezer. We all have those busy weeks, or you have company on the weekend, and so you're trying to clean up, and it's easy just to pull a meal out of the freezer. So that's what he's going to do. And I'm going to do a different take on lasagna, and I'm going to make a lentil lasagna soup. I have lots of tips of how you can use it to finish up other items in your kitchen, but that's what we're going to do. But Joe is going to start and show you what he's already done and then how he's going to put it together.
Okay, so today, here's what we're going to do. I'm actually kind of excited about this week because, as Sheila mentioned, she's making a lasagna soup, and I'm making traditional lasagna, and I actually like both. And I would recommend anybody who you might have in your family that's maybe kind of, not so thrilled about non-meat foods or plant-based foods. They should give it a try, because when it comes to soups, pretty much all soups are good. So I don't know how you can go wrong with that. So what I have basically, as I said, today we have some obligations to go to. We're actually going to use Sheila's soup at a function we're going to. And so I'm looking forward to getting there so I can partake in that. So obviously lasagna is not going to be eaten today. So what I've done is we've gone out at some point. We buy these plastic serving containers. These, I have both types. I have both the one serve for basically like what I'm using today. And then I have what I would take like to my lunch, where I can put a dish and some vegetables or fruit or something in here with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up 4 of these, maybe more, I don't know, with your basic traditional sauce. And then because everything's already cooked and everything's still, for the most part, really hot, as I add the cheese to it, the cheese will kind of melt down, and then I don't have to reheat these, so I can use these as they are in the plastic, or I can freeze them, thaw them out, cut them in half, take one portion, put it in my lunch container, and then I can take that as a lunch. So I'm actually looking at getting possibly 8 servings out of this dish, or more, depending on how much this adds up to. But everything's already cooked, so all I have to do is throw it in the microwave when I get to work, heat it up, and I have a good lunch. All I have is your standard, whatever type of pasta, spaghetti sauce that you use, that you guys like. Put that in. I added maybe a ½ pound of hamburger, some diced onion, and a little bit of seasoning just to kick up the flavor a little bit. And you just put a little bit of sauce in each one. I'm going to do 2 for now, just to set this up. And then your noodles, it's still a little warm. You just kind of make them fit just like anything else. And then this is just shredded mozzarella that we just did a little bit ago. And I'm just going to add that to it. And then, of course, you just start the layer all over again. And once you see how this is done, I'm not going to bore you with all watching me do this over and over and over. So we'll just move forward. And then when we come back, Sheila will show you her part. And then once we finish that, we'll get to go to our function and enjoy the soup today. We do tend to, if you haven't noticed already, we're going to do weekly videos. And we typically do them on Saturday morning, which is just like it is now. So our weekends can be a little more busy, depending on what's going on. We have, because we foster dogs, we might have to run errands or what have you as well. Never know. Make that fit. And then, so this is basically 3 layers. And the top layer, I'm just going to put a little extra cheese on there because I know once I put this in the microwave, it's going to melt down in there and it'll be just the way I like it. And like I said, I'll probably end up cutting this once it's frozen and thawed out. I'll cut it into 2 different portions, put those in my serving tray to pack my lunch for work. So, and of course, videos come out on Wednesday. I'll try to put them out every Wednesday night. It gives me a few days to put all this together and make it look like we actually know what we're doing. Other than that, from this point forward, it's going to be on Sheila to do hers and put it together. A little more entailed, but this is, I think, another good way of if you wanted to put this into a regular loaf pan or a foil pan or something, put it in the oven, probably 15 minutes at 375. And then if you wanted to do a just a not meat version, you could do the exact same thing without that. But if you don't want to skip the cheese or what have you, way Sheila's going to show you, you could probably do that in a pasta dish version as well. It's just a matter of what works for you. It's cold. It's, I think, -6 outside today. So we're kind of looking forward to some soup to warm us up. I'll probably, something like this, like I said, I make my lunch. I'll probably pack some fruit of some sort, an apple or whatever with it. You could probably take, pre-cook some breadsticks or something like that if you wanted, and put one of those in there with a serving dish. And they come with lids as well. So the lids are, fit whatever type of serving container they are. So this will just go on like that. And then once they're frozen, as they're sitting there, they're gonna, for now, I'll let them sit out and just kind of let that cheese that's down inside the middle, it'll continue to just kind of melt and ooze in there. So when I go to reheat it, half of that cheese has already been melted, and what's on top will just melt real quick as we go along. That's all I have for today. So we're going to pause here and reset so we can get Sheila over here and get the next part started.
So the lentil lasagna soup. So previously, before we started the video, Joe had put 1 jar of a tomato sauce or marinara sauce in this pot, and then he used about half of it, added it to his hamburger. And I'm just using the other half of it to get my vegetables started. So then here I got a cup of onions, got a half a cup each of celery and onion, and I've got about 1.5 cups of chopped mushrooms, and I've got some garlic. I chopped all of these with my food chopper, and the reason I'm doing that is because since we're going to an event where there's multiple people and you don't know everybody's taste, I prefer to do things really small, because then either they were not going to see it, or if you have little kids at home, this way it's just small bites, and nobody's getting a big massive bite of a mushroom if they don't really care for mushrooms. And Joe really doesn't care for mushrooms, but like this, it doesn't bother him at all. So I'm just going to stir all these in, and I want this to get up to a little bit of a simmer. So I'm going to let that happen. So while I'm waiting for that to happen, I do want to give some tips. This soup, or really any soup, is a great way to use leftovers up at the end of the week, because you might not have enough to do a full lasagna, or you might not have enough to do a big chicken dish. But you can put some broth in a pan with maybe, we always have that tomato paste where you have like this much of it left and you don't want it to go bad. Add it to here, thin it out a little bit, add some spices, add any leftover veggies and any meat if you want. In this case, I'm using the lentils. But you can just add it to a soup and it feeds a lot of people. That's the nice thing about, especially this lasagna soup, is it's a great way to use up a bunch of ingredients. And an example of that is the lasagna noodles. You can see here, these are actually from two different ones. We had a box that had 5 things, what do you call those, strips. and I had to buy more so he could make his, and then I added to this. And sometimes you get the lasagna noodles, and some of them are broke, and you can't do the whole 9 by 13. This way you could save up those. Or you might have a half a cup of dry pasta. You don't have to use lasagna noodles. You can use any noodles. And this recipe is very nice if you're gluten-free, because then you could use gluten-free noodles in here. Not a problem there at all. So I'm starting to hear this sizzle a little bit, so that's good, because I want these vegetables to soften for a couple minutes before I add the lentils. Then the lentils, I'll add the lentils and the broth and the rest of the spaghetti sauce, put a lid on it, and that needs to cook for about 20 minutes. Then at the end of the 20 minutes, I'm going to open the lid up, put the lasagna noodles in, cover it again in a low simmer, and then it will be ready. I'll have another 10 minutes, and then the soup will be ready. So we will cut to that when we get to that point. Now, if you happen to have lasagna noodles, like Joe didn't finish all his lasagna noodles, he's got these last few here. I'll just add these at the end because these are already cooked noodles. A tip I want to add about veggie broth is I don't usually keep a lot of stock in the cupboard because those containers can be a lot. Sometimes I do keep veggie scraps in my freezer so that I can make veggie broth from scratch. I just don't have enough right now to do that. So this is my newest thing, is this Better Than Bouillon. They have in multiple flavors. This one's vegetarian. And this stays in your fridge, and it's a teaspoon to 1 cup of water, and you can just heat the water up in the microwave, and then it dissolves. So this is 3 cups of warm water that I put in the microwave with 3 teaspoons of the veggie broth. So this way you don't have to keep a bunch in your freezer, and you've always got broth on hand. Okay, so this is all looking good, and it's softened up. Joe, can you see that?
Did you buy that veggie broth?
It's at the store. It's in I want to say it's by where the broths are, like on the top shelf. And they have multiple different flavors. And they last in the fridge a long time. So, yeah, this is like secret to doing it all. Okay, so I'm going to get this. I'm going to get the broth in. Okay. Now you can, instead of using marinara, you can just use a 28-ounce can of tomato, or 1.5 of them, because remember he used half of this. But in this case, I wanted the flavoring of the different kind of marinara, so that's what I opted to do. So this was a 1/2 cup of green lentils that I just added in. I always rinse my lentils, and I kind of look around. When you get the dried lentil or any kind of dried bean, always make sure you look around. There might be a little rock in there, and you don't want that. So I always rinse them and then just let them drain for a little bit. And then I'm going to add the rest of, and I just did what I never do. I was going to show you guys a great tip, and I screwed it up. What I should have done was put the tomato sauce in first, and then use some of my broth to put in here and shake it up. So let me show you. Because you definitely want all this, there's no point in wasting this. So that's just what I normally do, is I take anything and then you get the rest of it out. Then it's a lot less to clean before you recycle. Or a lot of times we save these jars because I can put my dried beans or my dried lentils in them once I get them all washed. Now, for the seasoning. So both the marinaras had seasoning, and I do buy marinara that does not have any extra added oil. Hard to find, but you can. Aldi around here has it the most. So 1 jar was garlic lovers. This jar was tomato basil, but I still want some dry seasoning. So it's a teaspoon of each of these, a garlic and herb, oregano, and then I've got a Herbs de Provence because I ran out of Italian seasoning and totally didn't realize it. So Herbs de Provence is on the slight side of Italian, but it's got a couple extra seasonings. So I figured it's going to be great in here. So it's a teaspoon of each of those in here. So we're going to put that in. And now we're just going to cover this up and let this, I'm going to bring this to a boil. Then I'm going to cover it and let it simmer for 20 minutes because you got to get those lentils cooked. They take 30 minutes to cook. So if you put your noodles in, they're going to be disintegrated by then. So that's why you don't want to add the noodles right away. Or if you have noodles already in the fridge, you would just add them in the last 5 minutes. Other things that you could add to this at the end is spinach if you want it. I won't because we're going to an event with multiple people. And so you want to make this soup to where multiple people can enjoy it and not go up and go, oh, I don't like spinach in my soup. We want this to be enjoyable for everyone. So that's why I'm making it the way that I am today. So let's get a shot of that before I put the lid on it and let those lentils cook. And we'll be back when we get the finished product. Thank you, everybody. Okay, everybody, I wish you had smell-o-vision because this smells amazing. Look at that deliciousness. The lentils are cooked. The pasta is cooked. The veggies are cooked. And you see it's all super fine. And oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome. Now, here's a note, and I do have this note in the recipe. Pasta, lentils, beans, any of them, they can absorb different amounts of liquid pending what recipe you're using, pending the day. I mean, I don't know the science behind it. There's times I've made this and I open it up and it is like thick stew. So you have to just add a little bit more liquid to it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just some days that's the way it is. In this particular case, I think we have the perfect ratio and I'm not going to add any, but there are days I have done it. And it is like, oh my goodness. And another caution is make sure once you get that to simmer and you put the lid on, keep it at simmer because the lentils and the pasta, they will float they just sink to the bottom. And so you don't want them to burn. And you can actually do this in your Instapot. You could put all the ingredients in there. I would add an extra half a cup of water and then put it on 6 minutes and release it. You could do it all at the same time, the lentils and the pasta. But in this case, I wanted to take it in this beautiful pot to the event. So that's why I did it that way. To serve it, you could serve it with breadsticks on the side, a big salad. You could put cheese and people could add cheese to the top, whether it be ricotta or Parmesan or mozzarella. I think I'll take a little Parmesan in case kids want it on top of theirs. But this is it. So this is lasagna, one dish, two ways. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.